Hey everyone, it is I, Scarred Hero, and welcome to episode 5 of the weekly Yozakura podcast. This week we're discussing chapter 164, Tsubomi's Visit. But before we get into the chapter itself, I'd first like to give an update on sales numbers from volume 16. It is now February, and since volume 16 released in January, its entire month has passed, and we have numbers for how many copies it sold during its debut month. Mission Yozakura family has sold 37,472 copies. Now, this seems to be a growth from last volume, but not quite at the series' peak. In terms of the other Jump volumes that came out this month, Witch Watch sold 56,683 copies, The Elusive Samurai sold 54,373 copies. So both Witch Watch and The Elusive Samurai sold more than Mission Yozakura family this month. But Mission Yozakura family still outsold PP, High School Family, and Super Smartphone. Super Smartphone is a cancelled series, so it was never expected to sell well. High School Family is, I guess it's an ongoing series, but it never sells well. Its place in the magazine is complicated, but that's not something to discuss in this podcast. And PP is about on the same tier as Mission Yozakura family, but Mission Yozakura family outsold it by a good nearly 10,000 copies. So that's actually really impressive on Mission Yozakura family's part. So those are the sales numbers. Just figured I'd update you listeners on that. And now let's get into the actual content of this week's chapter. So we start this week's chapter where last week's chapter left off, with a baby Tsubomi laying on the doorstep of the Yozakura mansion. Then we get a cut to Tsubomi laying in the bed. Nanio's kind of taking care of her, making sure she doesn't die, and we see Kyoichiro instantly try to attack her. In last week's episode, I predicted that there will be a conflict among the family about what to do with Tsubomi, but it seems we kind of get that discussion happening sooner than I expected, which is good evidence against my theory, and that is okay. We see the family kind of argue about what to do about Tsubomi. We see Kyoichiro, who wants to straight up just kill her now, and Mutsumi has a clear stance, which isn't something I expected either. I figured if there would be a conflict among the family, Mutsumi would have to be a neutral party, or else anybody who was against her would be labeled as a traitor to the family, and that can't happen. So Mutsumi's deal with it, Kyoichiro, we can't just ignore her after she showed up on our doorstep. And Kyoichiro straight up tells her that she's making the wrong decision, and that she'll bring disaster into the house. Futaba agrees with Kyoichiro, and Kengo agrees with them both. But Shinzo and Nanio side with Mutsumi. Anyways, Mutsumi's this is a Yozakura family problem, and we have to discover why she's here. Then Shion chimes in with some interesting information. She has found data that was in Tsubomi's body because she has a chip embedded in her skin, and Shion shows the rest of the family that the Rei, Momo, and Tsubomi are both labeled as there's this whole website with everyone's names labeled, and it's very creepy, very disturbing, and the family reacts that way. You can see it in their faces how disturbed they are. Shion has a hypothesis that they're looking at a research data stream, and so this whole situation's just whack, we don't know what's going on. And then Shion's but one thing I did find out is this is a personal problem for all of us too, and it has the 10th generation all labeled under list of assets in cultivation. So, and it has Mutsumi, Taiyo, Kyoichiro, Futaba, Shinzo, Shio, and Kengo, and Nanio. And so, and the next part is something really interesting. In my opinion, the most interesting thing of the chapter, or one of the most interesting things of the chapter. The whole thing was just peak. But it says the 10th generation head and siblings are all presently immature and require another 5 to 6 years growth. Once fully mature, they will be harvested and brought under direct control, which is like huge. And this contributes to my continued theory that we are getting a time skip very, very, very soon. Now, if you listened to the last episode, and I really hope you did, but in the last episode, I figured this would be a 1-year time skip to allow Tsubomi's body to mature. But that's not going to happen because, one, what happens at the very end of this chapter, and two, it's the Yozakura family, like the current 10th generation head and siblings, who need time to mature. And not just 1 year, they need 5 to 6 years. So, which is even crazier because I was predicting a 1-year time skip this entire time, but the way this is phrased, it seems to me that we are going to be getting a 5 to 6 year time skip, which is absolutely insane. Like, Taiyo and Mutsumi are currently 17. In 5 to 6 years, they'll either be 22 or 23, which is the same age as Kyoichiro is now. So this is very huge. And we also see Keiko and Bon, the grandparents of the Yozakura family, under a section called List of Assets Currently Being Retrieved, which makes the reader be like, they fear for Bon and Keiko. They're like, what? But then everything's cool because the family gets a call from Bon, and he basically tells them that they're okay, and they do know that people are after them right now, but they're safe. So Keiko and Bon, they basically reassured the 10th generation that, don't worry, we're safe, and Bon and I will lay low for a while. We won't be able to get in touch as much, which is sad, but we'll be all right. Which is, it's nice to kind of see like them, well, not only see them again, but also see them be like confirmed to be safe and out of the picture of this whole conflict. And I think setting them aside now is also a good thing for the time skip, because we don't have to worry about Bon and Keiko anymore because of this. And Momo thanks Taiyo and Kyoichiro for taking care of Momo and tells him to take care of Mutsumi too. But, so yeah, that happens. But back to like this data that they found from Asa, like someone or something is after the entire Yozakura family. This is something that's been drilled into us repeatedly for a long time now. Most prominently since the Kyoichiro disappearance arc, where that's kind of the reason where Kyoichiro panicked. He knew someone was out there. And then at the end of the chapter, after this phone call, this was so shocking to me. Asa shows up once again. The house's security system does not go off, and he just shows up. He's like, Tsubomi, I've come to get you. Come, it's time to go home. And that is where this week's chapter ends, which is an insane cliffhanger. Now that we've talked about what happened during the chapter, let me talk about where I think things are going. So here you have Tsubomi and the family taking care of Tsubomi, trying to keep her safe, and then Asa just instantly shows up and he's like, yeah, no, Tsubomi, you're coming with me. Tsubomi is ready to be harvested, unlike the 10th generation. So this is why Asa isn't like wanting to take out the entire Yozakura family right now. He knows that the 10th generation needs more time to mature. But Tsubomi doesn't. So he's trying to take Tsubomi and utilize her for whatever his plans are. And obviously, the Yozakura family, the 10th generation, isn't going to let Asa have Tsubomi. Whether it's because they want to protect her or whether it's because they simply don't want Asa to achieve his goal, they are going to fight to protect Tsubomi. And listen, when Asa first showed up, Kyoichiro had his blooming activated. Kyoichiro, the strongest member of the family, had his strongest ability activated, and Asa instantly took care of him. He just shut off his ability, which is insane. We don't know what Asa's power is, but regardless, what we do know is Asa is insanely strong, and there's no way the family can beat him. There's no way. So I'm guessing the next chapter or two, we're going to see the Yozakura family get the worst butt kicking of the entire series. If you remember the post spy exam arc, or the Silver Rank spy exam arc, where Momo fights the entirety of the siblings and we first get that tease of Kyoichiro's blooming, this butt kicking that the Yozakura family will be getting, it's going to be far worse than that, because one, Momo wanted the best for the family in his own twisted way, while Asa is out here literally trying to harvest them as if they were plants, which is crazy. Speaking of harvesting, there's another interesting theory I have that kind of ties into my predictions about the time skip. So here's what we know. First, Asa is here trying to take Tsubomi from the Yozakura family, and there is no way the Yozakura family can win against Asa, who's clearly being built up as the next antagonist for the series, and likely the final one, to be honest. We also know that when Momo kind of died, he left Tayo a bullet that has some secrets hidden to this bullet that Tayo will eventually need to decipher. So we have this bullet, we have Asa, so here's what I'm thinking. This bullet could be the key to a new power. Now, I've mentioned this before. I forget whether it was an episode of this podcast or whether it was a totally unrelated Mission Yozakura family related video, but I think it's very possible that we are going to see a power beyond the blooming. In fact, I think it's kind of likely, especially if we're getting the time skip. There's no way, again, I'm going to keep repeating this to drive my point. There is no way the Yozakura family can win against Asa as they are now. And with the series directly saying in this chapter that the Yozakura family needs another 5 to 6 years to mature in order for Asa to even care about taking them, that means they have 5 to 6 years basically where they're safe, and they need to use these 5 to 6 years to get stronger so they can protect themselves and the family. And I think a time skip is the solution to that. There needs to be a time skip from now to 5 to 6 years in the future where they train and where they get stronger so they can actually stand a chance against Asa. And I think the purpose of Asa coming here now at the end of this chapter is we're going to see exactly the power gap between the current Yozakura family and Asa. Now this bullet and this power beyond the blooming, I'm going to call this power for now, I think ripening is the best label for this upgraded power. We keep getting fruit analogies, the entire series has been flower analogies. The symbol of the Yozakura family is a flower. We've had Tampopo, which means dandelion. Hinagiku means daisy, I think. Don't quote me on that. But we've had all these flower themes. But when Momo died and gave Tayo this bullet, he didn't create a flower. No, he took a flower and it turned into a cherry. That cherry blossom turned into just a straight up cherry. We're going from flowers to fruit, and now we're talking about harvesting. It's like the life cycle of a cherry blossom tree. We have its growth, and then it's blooming, where the flowers of the cherry blossom tree bloom. And some cherry blossom trees, they also bear fruit. So we have the growth, the blooming. Consider the growth to be the base form of the family. So we have the blooming, and the final stage of the tree the cherry blossom tree is to ripen and grow fruit. So that's why I'm thinking that there will be another power beyond the blooming called the ripening that the Yozakura family will probably discover during this time skip. And that's what they'll hone or try to hone in order to become stronger to stand a chance against Asa. Although I think suddenly mastering a new power during a time skip is kind of, well, a power of that level, suddenly mastering it during a time skip seems boring. So maybe during this 5 to 6 year time skip, they deciphered the bullet, discovered the existence of the ripening, but they haven't been able to use it. So, and then during the course of like the fight against, I can already see it now, just like that final battle between the Yozakura family and Asa, and then suddenly they just all awaken their ripening powers for the first time. That'd be absolutely phenomenal to see, and it gets me excited just talking about it, because like, man, there's so many neat directions this story can go in, and 90% of them mean time skip. So I'm pretty confident that we're getting a time skip, because I really can't fathom any reason for us not to get one, because we keep talking about the future in the series. Like the past few chapters, we had the career counseling chapter where Taiyo's talking about his career and what type of spy he wants to be like when he's, I guess, a little older. I say older, but it's not like, he's not like a little kid. It's not that far into the future. So we had that career counseling chapter. Then last chapter we had like the anniversaries. They talked about how all these themed anniversaries, like their first anniversary is the paper one, and then they talked about how their 85th anniversary is going to be the wine anniversary. So they're like, it seems like Hitsuji Gondaira, the author of the series, has keep ingraining this idea into the readers' minds of, hey, look towards the future. And here in the present, not only are we looking forward towards the future, the present seems like it's going to be in a pretty bad situation, just depending on how Asa responds to the Yozakura family. Because although he doesn't have any like need to kill them now, he plans to do that in 5 to 6 years. But if they stand in his way, then he'll have no problem with attacking them and making sure they don't. Because I mean, we saw during his first appearance, like Taiyo tried stopping Asa during the Sea Blossom arc, and then Asa just like stared at Taiyo and he was about to do something until Kyoichiro's like, hey, cut that out. But again, there's just like the present, the Yozakura family is about to get their butt kicked. Like there's no way around it. I know I'm repeating myself, but I just like, there is no way they are getting out of this unscathed in the present. Like they need to get stronger in order to stand a chance against Asa. And the 5 to 6 years thing, like just everything spells out in big red letters, TIMESKIP, time skip. We are getting a time skip. Probably. I mean, like, I don't know anything for 100% sure, but I'm so confident that we're getting a time skip. And 5 to 6 years, that's a long time skip too. Like, I can't think of many time skips in Shonen that are on that scale. Like, we have the One Piece time skip, that was 2 years. The Naruto time skip, I think, was also like 2 years. Black Clover was 6 months. The only time skip I can think of that was actually a bit longer than that, it was Fairy Tail, had its 7-year time skip. But I mean, then you had like all the main characters, they were basically suspended in time, and when they came back, it was like 7 years in the future. But that's Fairy Tail, this is Mission Yozakura family. I'm just like, I'm so excited. And another thing, I've totally forgot to mention how Kai's there too. So if Asa, Tsubomi, the 10th generation, and Kai are in the same place, I think it's going to play out that the Yozakura family are going to try to defend Tsubomi, make sure Asa doesn't get Tsubomi. They're going to fail miserably. Asa is going to kick their butts. Kai's going to be there too. I doubt he'll just, I mean, he's the president of the Spy Association. Do you think he's just going to like hide out and like not do anything about Asa? Unless it's some like grand scheme thing, I don't know. But I think most likely Kai is going to end up fighting Asa too, or at least trying to, and I'm sure Kai will get his butt kicked too, because Kai and Kyoichiro have seemed like comparable. Like when they were on the mission together, they're about equal power levels, and Asa seems to be way beyond Kyoichiro, so I'm assuming he's way beyond Kai too. So I'm thinking Asa's going to come in, beat the crap out of the Yozakura family. Kai's going to try to help out. Asa's going to beat the crap out of Kai too, and then we have the Yozakura family, the strongest spy family, and the president of the Spy Association taken out at the same time. That's going to cause ripples throughout the spy world. Like, people are going to be scared. Like, the strongest people in our organization, in our world, our trade, they've been taken out by one guy. So I think that's going to raise concern throughout like the entire spy world, and then it sets up that final conflict where you have not just the Yozakura family but other members of the spy community trying to help out the Yozakura family, because like if Asa succeeds in this goal, then it means doom for the entire world of spies. So I think that'd be very interesting. And in terms of like the training that could happen during the time skip, I thought about it, and the introduction of the gold ranks during like the midway through the Momo saga, I think that's significant because each member of like the gold ranks that they introduced have clear similarities to members of the Yozakura family. So I'm thinking each member of the family, they're kind of going to like split up into teams to train, and I'm thinking like team 1 will be Taiyo, Kyoichiro, Mutsumi, Kai. Kai with Taiyo because, I mean, obviously they have their similarities with their backstory, and Kyoichiro and Kai are like best friends, possibly lovers if you're into that theory, and Mutsumi is the head of the Yozakura family, Kai is the head of the Spy Association. So I'm assuming them four will probably be a group, and then we have like Futaba with Shura, and Shinzo with I can't pronounce his name, Alexandriu, and so on. Like each member of the family partners up with their, I guess, other, like, I don't know how to phrase it. Their doppelganger isn't the right word, but it's the only thing I can come up with. Their doppelganger, they're in the gold ranks. So, again, I'm so excited for next week, especially. Like, this series is really amping up, which, I mean, I didn't expect. I figured there'd be lots of slice of life chapters, but nope, we're getting straight into the time skip, which, my opinion on the slice of life thing, I think it would have been nice if volume 19 kind of stayed like slice of life, so we'd at least have like that one volume of slice of life, and then volume 20 could be doing what we're doing now, but that's not how it worked out, and that's okay. So again, I'm sticking with my prediction that volume 19 will wrap up this arc that we're in right now, and starting with volume 20, I think, and volume 20, I forget what chapter that'll be, but we'll get a time skip then. I forget what chapter it is, but I do know that the chapter that starts volume 20 will be the first chapter that comes out in March. So we got like a month away until we're in volume 20 territory. So my prediction is time skip in a month, which is very exciting. If we do get a time skip, hopefully we also get some of that promotion, and we get like the cover and lead color page. But again, at this point, I'm like speaking my ideal wants for the series, but I just don't know. Like, time skip, I'm sure we're getting it, so get hyped, because I know I am. And yeah. Oh, I totally neglected to mention that next week we'll also be getting a color page for the chapter, so that's very exciting. Likely due to like the events of the story picking up. No, that's wrong, because we're getting the results of the popularity poll, finally. I totally forgot about that. Why didn't I say that earlier? So yeah, get excited, as Senka would say. So I think that will be all for this week's episode of the weekly Yozakura podcast. I'm your host, Scarred Hero, and thank you for listening.